What is going on, friends? Sean Don coming back with a technical analysis. Here we have a groundbreaking new in-depth technical analysis. The first ever one sent in by somebody from the great country of India. This was sent in, I guess technically this is Sona in the video. I assume Sonia. Sent in by her coach Arun, who's a throws coach in Chennai, India. So stoked to see him reach out and ask for some help for her. Um, yeah, let's get into it. He did say that her issue seems to be her first catch. He catches late and then loses tension. And looking
Good.
at both of the videos that you sent to me, Arun, they both look pretty solid in terms of
Good.
orbit, stability, all that sort of thing. Like, they're pretty solid looking tosser. She's pretty young as well, I think only 16 or something like that.
Good.
So definitely has some potential for the future. You also sent me some stick drills, and they looked decent. They just looked
Good.
fast. So feedback for the stick drills, they just looked very fast. Like she was kind of rushing through rather than kind of slowing down. And I guess being a little bit more intentional while putting that foot down in the first turn. So one last look, and then we'll
Good.
start breaking it down. So she is starting just a little offset with a step up in the throw. So first wind. Okay, let's see. Arms out away from the body, bringing the ball forwards, kind of coming across a little bit. As you can see, your hand's going to go from her right to left a little bit. As you can see, it's like she almost tosses them out in front of her left foot. Try to perhaps try to bring them forwards a little bit more from here. Try to bring them forwards longer out from 270 through 0. That might help a little bit, but otherwise, after she sends the ball kind of forwards here, her hands kind of across the body, she starts to open up. She does an excellent job turning back, connecting early. Nice long, relaxed winds. Love to see that, especially at such a young age. And as we go into the second wind, she's shifting weight over her left. Her hands kind of drop a little bit, but you can see kind of like as soon as that ball passes, frame rate in this video seems to be a little bit higher, so it'll take a little bit more effort to scrub through it. But as kind of the ball kind of passes the right foot, she steps up with it. And now she actually does a better job of bringing her hands forwards. Like I said, it does look like they kind of drop a little bit, but it's subtle. It's not bad. But the big thing is, as the hands come forwards, you can see she's already starting to kind of open up and turn back. So her hands are kind of moving while her upper body is turning back and getting ready to catch the ball early to prepare for connection. As you can see, she kind of sinks down into the legs a little bit more, bent knees, hips are underneath her. She opens up, connects really well, connects back behind her at like 180. And she looks very stable in her legs and her torso and her hips and all that stuff. And you can see as she goes through an entry. Like I said, hands are still kind of down a little bit. Right elbow's down a little bit. Not a huge issue. The big thing is that the left arm's long across the body, which is good. And then she's pretty patient, where like some people get into this position, they end up start pulling and turning that left side ahead, but she does a very good job of being patient. As she goes through entry, like I said, good patience. You can see that head, the eyes, focal point kind of out in front of that right foot, 30, 45 degrees before 0, more or less. But you can see she has, like I said, that patience for the head. So the body, the ball, everything else is turning, and her head kind of holds back. And because of that, she lets the ball pass quite well. She has very good patience, pretty good left side stability as well. Ball passes 0, left side is still kind of out over that left heel. Not quite out over the toe with this heel turn to start. Does make it a little bit harder, but pretty solid patience in entry. As you can see, once the ball passes, the ball kind of turns her. Once the ball passes enough, it kind of brings her head with it, and the rest of her body's turning with it. You can see that left foot's still leading a little bit. At least if you look at the right foot compared to the left foot's pointed in the direction of 90, and the right foot's still kind of pointed back at 0. So she could try to get a little bit more. If we just click back to right about here, she could try to use that right side a little bit more, and then like as soon as the ball starts passing that right leg, she should think about trying to kind of turn that right leg with it. This right femur, especially the right thigh, turning with the ball, and the right foot turning with the ball to keep it a little bit more connected, where This might cause the issue a little bit where you can see that left leg opening up ahead, that right side's a little bit behind, it's a little bit disconnected. Posture, hips are back a little bit, but I don't think it's a huge issue right now. But you can still see towards the end of that double support, that left foot's still kind of creeping early. The ball's back at like 90-ish, and that left foot's ahead of it a little bit. Just a sign that the left side's leading, the right side's going to be a little bit behind because of that. And then as we get to this point here where you can see that left foot pointed towards 180 almost, and then the ball's still back at like 135-ish, maybe a little bit before, and the right side's a little bit behind. As you go through single support, you can see now the ball starts to get ahead of her, or rather, she is square with the ball with her shoulders and her hips at this point. So this is kind of where the loss of tension is coming from. So to fix that first turn, like I said, if we go back to the start of entry, when the ball's on the right side, right about here, like I said, that right side needs to be more connected as the ball passes. So you can see this left side turning, and the right side doesn't turn as well with it. If this right side turns with it better, it'll be more connected in single support. And if that happens, you will be able to sneak that right foot in more. So she's just kind of lacking separation going into that first catch. So that's kind of where the late catch comes from. Like I said, once we get to this frame about here, there is no separation between the hips and the shoulders in this position. And that's kind of where the lack of tension comes from. So if we progress into the catch, like I said, her hips are a little bit back. She goes to kind of step into the next turn. And like I said, still not much separation. There's a little bit more than there was a few frames ago when the ball was at 180. But once again, her shoulders and her hips are pretty much more or less square with the ball. Like I said, there's a little tiny bit of separation. You can see her hips look like maybe they're pointed back in this direction a little bit, but the ball on her shoulders, there's just not much. So the big thing is to make sure that she can feel the ball go long around the left here, so long left here, and then she needs to kind of relax that left side, relax her upper body, and really put more emphasis on that right leg stepping ahead into the next turn to get some separation, because like I said, it's just a little bit behind. That right side's a little bit disconnected, and it's kind of lazy almost a little bit. And when she goes to catch, like I said, she gets it down just before the ball gets to 270, but there's just not as much separation as there could be if she could catch, right foot on the ground and the ball is more in the direction of the cage door or what would be the left sector line. That would be very useful, I think. But otherwise, that's kind of the biggest thing that I think I see throughout the throw. She doesn't catch with much separation, but then she is very patient through double support. You can see as she goes through double support, she gets back against the ball. Body's pretty stable, left side's pretty stable. Now you start to see this right leg turning with it better. It's not so far behind. So that right leg disconnection and entry is kind of what I think causes that late entry. And then as she goes into the next turn, pretty solid here. But then same sort of thing. Kind of gets everything square with the ball, so it's hard to kind of sneak that right foot ahead. And she gets more separation here. Hips are pointed back towards 270, and the ball's more in the direction of the sector. So this is a better catch because that right side, that right leg, was turning with it better at the end of, or in the previous double support. And then same thing as we go through this turn, has better tension and separation, better connection. She turns, she's very patient, she's pretty stable, very stable, I'd say, even. A little bit of left side leading, turning ahead. You can see it's very subtle. If you look at the head and the shoulder, she's turning ahead of it just slightly, but it's not bad. It's at least the ball passes over that right leg. And then starts turning with it. A little pulling back, but it's not bad. And then you can kind of see her left side. If you look at her head, her left arm is back kind of across her body just a tiny bit. So there's a little bit of left side leading, but it's not too shabby. Bent knees, great position here. Lower body's turning with it better. And then you can still just see a little bit of that left side leading. You see that left arm on top. And then you start to see, it just looks like the idea of her right leg is a little bit lazy. In this turn, though, now you start to see that right leg, like I said, turning better with it in the second and third turn, or going into the second and third turn. You start to see she steps forward more towards the circle, towards the sector, rather. Steps forward towards the ball, steps forward towards the high point, and she catches with that right foot more in the direction of the sector. Hips facing 270, ball back in the direction of the left sector. So it's pretty solid here. A little bit of separation in the body. And then as she goes through double support in this final turn, she does extend up a little bit. You can see this left side kind of pulling up as we go through. The legs kind of extending a little bit too soon. I'd like to see her stay down just a little bit longer and be a little bit more patient before this extension happens, because you can see she kind of pulls up and lifts up on the ball just a little bit. If you look at her legs, pretty much almost perfectly straight. That left leg's already straightened out. That left foot's coming off the ground, and that right leg also extends shortly thereafter. So she kind of pulls off the finish because she is kind of just extending a little bit too much and forcing the finish a little bit too much. But still pretty decent finish. She does get forward after, which is good, getting direction out into the sector. So yeah, pretty solid looking toss. I do think it really just does come back to the entry. If we go back to it, like I said, right around here, pretty solid, but it's just a little bit too much of the left side leading, and that right side's a little bit back behind everything that's going on. A little bit, you can see balls in the direction of, 15, 20 degrees after zero, and that right leg still kind of pointed back after zero. So that right leg just needs to turn a little bit better in single support, and then ball gets longer on the left. You can feel the ball stretch to the right sector line, so stretching in this direction, and then from here, her right side needs to think about stepping forward towards the ball a little bit more and just be with the ball a little bit more. That right leg needs to turn with the ball a little bit more, and then that will help this first catch. Because that's kind of the only thing that I see that's kind of like a big glaring issue. Her turns are pretty solid. There's a little bit of left side leading. And then from there, for the rest of the throw, it's pretty solid. Pretty good patience, great posture through the lower body. And then, yeah, as the throw progresses, it gets better and better. So if she can fix that first turn, it'll make a big difference, I think. In terms of what you said in the email about figuring out 4 turns, I think she can handle it. It looks like her technique's pretty good. But that's just going to make that first turn even more important than it already is. When you do a toe turn, if you are going to have her do a 4 turn or toe turn, it gets even harder. And if you mess up that first turn on a 4 turn throw, it's just going to be a little bit tougher. But it looks like she has the idea of how to turn with the hammer pretty well. So I think 4 turns could work for her. In terms of advice, kind of follow what I said in this video. The same rules apply. She looks like she's short enough that, or rather her feet are small enough that she could do 4 turns and do 4 heel turns, so it could work. So yeah, hopefully this helps. Like I said, it's all about that right leg in the first turn, connecting everything and making sure it stays with it. And then that should help that first catch. So thank you for ordering, Arun. Hopefully this helps. And it would be cool to see Sona, whatever, however you pronounce her name. I'm not an expert in linguistics. I can't even talk. Linguistics, that's the term. Yeah, so would be stoked to see her drop some bombs. Throw pretty far in a few years, 60, 70. Maybe she'll break the Indian national record. That wouldn't that be cool? That'd be pretty sweet. So yeah, thank you again for ordering. If you guys are watching this, you want a technical analysis for your own, go to my website, gripandrip.co, all right? Thank you for watching. Until next time, Sean Don signing off.